Hey guys, Louie here, and can you believe it? There's actually a plan being circulated by our government to mint two $1 trillion platinum coins. You may have heard of this possibility in the past. Well, they are actually trying to write that into law, that two $1 trillion platinum coins, hey, all right, platinum, are going to be minted by the U.S. Mint and then sold to the Federal Reserve as a way to, are they moving the debt off Broadway? Man, I don't know that's the craziest thing. Okay, this plan will fund, every citizen of the United States over the age of 16, I think they said $1,000 a month basic income for what I believe was for a year. And on some kind of debit card, it might even be a crypto card. I hear Chinese are doing that. So that is only one of the plans that's circulating. The other plan that's circulating, not a law yet, it probably won't be, but circulating, is to forgive everyone's rent and everyone's mortgage for a year. And there's some catches to that, some important catches. But whether you have a Manhattan penthouse or you have a shack somewhere, in the rural part of the country, well, they'll pay your mortgage for you. Well, they won't pay it for you. They'll tell you don't have to pay it. Then they'll give that money to the banks. And the landlords do get hurt by this because they don't get all their money. They just get the mortgage forgiven. And they have to also not raise the rent for 5 years and probably accept Section 8. And it's actually would hurt landlords considerably. But, of course, it'd be good for banks because rather than getting, 70% of their mortgage payments for the next year, because defaults will be high, they'll get 100%. So it's always good for the banks. And I forget how many trillions of dollars that program's going to cost. But, and you already know what the prior programs were, and they're expanding them virtually every week to the tune of $250 billion, $500 billion, or even more. So now we're going off balance sheet completely. Well, I guess, that will offset. Let's see, they've got the gold in there, but the gold is only worth, oh my gosh, I just heard this on a video. Was it 500 billion or something? I can't quite recall, but Belang did a video on the value of gold if you mark to market. Thought it was 500 billion, but I could be wrong about that. But they're giving away trillions every time they turn around. I gotta say, man, they must be so scared right now, or maybe both parties are buying votes, or maybe they're fearful for, the end of our economy. But the delinquencies and defaults are just shooting through the roof all over the business world, whether it be credit cards or auto loans. 9% of auto loans are now in default in 1 month. And credit cards, well, I imagine everybody owes money on their credit card. There could be some deferrals for a month or two, and then, bang, you're going to start getting those late fees. So there's going to be a ton of bankruptcies if, the people haven't already gone bankrupt. A lot of people have. But can you imagine how desperate that is? And can you imagine what that has to do to the value of gold and silver and platinum, in my opinion? You have to imagine what this kind of nonsense. Honestly, I remember during the first Great Recession and the first time they announced quantitative easing, and I really thought it was like the end of the free world. And it coincided, with a new president coming on board shortly, and what I thought would be higher tax. Anyway, I thought that, bond rates would be rising back then, and I was wrong because they got really tricky with how they manipulated that. But there's nothing left. There's no bonds to go higher, right? At the moment, everything's zero, so it's got to be tangible assets. It's got to be. unless somebody comes and takes them from you or somehow mandates their value or does one of those other tricky things. Boy, hold on tight to your gold and silver. You know, I think we're getting exposed to this crazy stuff day by day, month by month, but this is the biggest change in the management of our country since the Civil War. I mean, you can't tell me that this is normal times. And that's great, you get $1,000, maybe you buy a new pair of tennis shoes or something with it. But then, you know, the monetary system is just fried. And I suppose we'll be competitively devaluing ourselves to all other countries. But that's got to matter eventually, because the cost of stuff is still going to be the cost of stuff. And people's wages are going to have to go up, so gold has got to appreciate. And, you know, I don't know what that time frame is, but we are in a period of insanity. What we did to the world, and now what we're doing to the world to fix what we did to the world. You know, I mean, I'm not drawing a judgment on the veracity of the virus. I'm saying, look what we are doing. We just corrupted our money supply entirely, and nobody cares. And other countries are worse, and hope there isn't war, because there's certainly going to be starvation coming out of this. Hold on tight to your assets. I mean, I'm really glad I've got some physical assets. Really, really super glad, because, you know, what is that Ross Perot said? That sound you hear, you know, that he said something like that's your jobs going to Mexico or something like that. Well, that sound you hear, that burr of the printing press, that's them stealing the money that you have to give you money you don't have. But the money they give you will be far less than what they stole from you in the long run. Hold on to your gold and silver and platinum. All right, guys, have a great week.